My name's John Hare. I'm the CEO of a Winnipeg-based biopharmaceutical company. As a matter of fact, we call it a clinical stage biopharmaceutical company because we're actually in a phase 2 clinical trial right now of a treatment we have for C. difficile infection. And so that's a little bit of a preamble. The reason for my little talk today is last night I watched a movie called American Underdog, and it's about Kurt Warner, who, you know, people my vintage for sure will know about him. He was an all-star quarterback for the St. Louis Rams and played pro football for some 12 years. But the start of his career, he played high school football and then went on to university. Played for 5 years in university and was expecting to get drafted, was hoping to get drafted. His whole dream was to become a football star. Didn't work out that way. Never got drafted. Finally got a tryout with the next year with the Green Bay Packers. That lasted a very short time. Never got on the field. Anyway, he eventually went to arena football. Okay, so in other words, somebody convinced him. He needed money. I mean, he had a couple of kids, a wife, and so how are they going to support themselves? And so he ended up getting approached by the guy who originated the Arena Football League and played for the Iowa Barnstormers in Des Moines, Iowa, which is kind of interesting because my background was animal agriculture. And every year in June we have a what they call a World Pork Expo, and that's the business that I was in for the longest time. And so, matter of fact, I'm down there with an old buddy of mine who actually played himself for that Arena Football League. Matter of fact, he played for Tampa, and this was an old friend. He's since passed away, unfortunately. Younger guy, than me, and he got killed in a car accident, unfortunately. But anyway. Mike was built like a linebacker, and so I said, well, I just presumed if he was playing arena football, he's probably playing defensive line or something like that. He was their kicker, which in arena football there's hardly any kicking because you're playing in a hockey arena, so there's not a lot of room for kicking. But anyway, that was his job. But he knew the coach when they were playing. So we're down at the World Pork Expo in Des Moines, and he got us tickets, and away we go to the game. And I'm thinking this is going to be rinky-dink to watch and everything else. But it turned out an amazing game. I mean, the scores are like 64-57 final, and for a football game that's kind of neat because they're scoring almost all the time. And so when I watched this movie last night, a lot of it was based on this Arena Football League and the Iowa Barnstormers, where Kurt Warner, who was the American Underdog, was playing to start his career. And it was because of the fact that he just kept playing and wanted to eventually get into the NFL and play. He finally did get a look, and the St. Louis Rams picked him up, and he got on the field finally. As a matter of fact, the only reason he got on the field, Trent Green, who was the quarterback for the team at the time, and I remember that name well too, and he was an outstanding quarterback himself. Trent Green got injured. Now their backup is Kurt Warner, who'd never played a game in his life in the NFL, and obviously he had to go on. The next thing you know, he's winning Super Bowls and became the MVP twice, and Underdog made it, which is the true American story, which is kind of neat. The reason I'm bringing this up, because when I started this conversation, I talked about I'm the CEO of a Winnipeg-based biopharmaceutical company called Immunimed, and we are like the Canadian Underdog. And let me tell you, in the drug industry, big pharma would be the NFL. Well, we're not even little pharma, and we're not in the CFL would be the comparable sort of thing to the NFL, Canadian Football League, which is probably by most American standards kind of the lower league, and so we're the same on the pharma side, but we do have a phase 2 clinical trial ongoing, which, by the way, that puts you in a different status. In other words, just by saying clinical stage biopharmaceutical, that means you've got a drug that's already been past all the development stages, past the safety stage. Phase 2 means you're into actual efficacy. And we had 106 patients to be exact, pre-clinical trials that all got better with our treatment. So anyway, it was kind of an interesting movie, and basically the whole thing was don't give up, which we're not doing. And I'm telling you, we're sticking with it, and we've been sticking. We started this technology back in 1997. Animal agriculture was what I was in at the time. We did get the very first veterinary biologic ever registered in the world, an oral dose antibody treatment to treat E. coli in baby pigs. So that was a start, and that was a great start because it was the first in the world. Now we've got what will be the world's first oral dose antibody to treat a human infection, which would be this one against Clostridioides difficile, or C. diff infection. And so, we're in the same boat a little bit as old Kurt Warner was. Kurt, did well. I'm just hoping that Immunimed will do the same. As a matter of fact, I think we can do it. We just got a lot of work to do. We need help, by the way. That's one of the main things. And, he got some breaks, which was good. We're hoping we can get a few breaks. And the biggest problem we've got, obviously, in Canada is the lack of understanding of biopharma to begin with, and with that goes the lack of financing for it. And so we're making a pitch to all the kind of people we know and any institutions we can to try to get funding to make this work. Typically big pharma would be the ones, just like Kurt Warner got called up for St. Louis Rams, would be the ones to call up our treatment. Unfortunately, antimicrobials, antibiotics are not on their list of things they really want to look for, which is kind of too bad because, they say the next pandemic that's coming will be, antimicrobial resistance. In other words, you get a cut on your finger and you'll die because there's not any antibiotics left that are working to treat it. And so we're in that area, but big pharma, the call up would come on a drug that's going to pay back a whole lot more than those types of drugs would pay. In other words, an antibiotic you might get 5 or 6. Matter of fact, one of the competitive treatments right now, standard of care for C. difficile infection, is an antibiotic called fidaxomicin, which I think sells for $5,600 US per treatment. Well, $5,600 sounds like a lot. If you bought an antibiotic of late, you know that they're not very expensive. I think I had an ear infection about 6 months ago and got an antibiotic for it. I think it cost me $32 for the full treatment. And so, nobody's going to invest in those types of drugs for the sake of if you've got a big investment, to get back. Antibiotics don't pay back. So we've got something that works great for C. diff. We need help on it. Probably won't be coming from big pharma. They just don't see it as their purview for making enough money for the investment that typically has to be made. So check out Freedom Pharma, by the way. That's our way of looking at things. And, we're getting close to the Christmas season. That's probably where I'm wearing this funny hat. I want to wish you all a happy holiday season, Merry Christmas, and all the best.